There are many ways you can procure your items in the Elder Scrolls. The most common ones includes getting dungeon loot, and selling the extras to the shops and buying an upgrade to the gear. But what if you want to skip the middleman, and just steal the shop stuff itself, along with other things? I did something more restricted in Skyrim, but I'm curious how things will go in general for Oblivion, so today, I will attempt to beat Oblivion Remastered with only stolen loot. Rules are very simple. The only items I can use are the items that I stole, and I have to steal my lockpicks, potions, spells, and basically anything not nailed down. Well, sure, I could be stealing gold and all. I decided to spice things up, and I will not be allowing myself to buy anything, or sell anything. I did think about doing the Thieves Guild questline since I will be thieving, but since I can't sell stuff, I literally cannot progress a questline, since you need a fence in order to progress the ranks. Also, I will be forbidding myself any major glitches and exploits. I have done too many dupes in recent runs, so I'll be restricting usage going forward. No other rules? How long will it be before I inevitably become a criminal scum? Let's find out. Starting up with the character creator as usual, today's abomination is a dark elf who might have seen the Neverine struggle with the cliff racers and other relevant Morrowind references. As for what I decide what nightmare fuel I'll play with today, it honestly didn't take long for me to decide, and I decided to make Squidward. And honestly, I think I did an alright job for someone who hasn't watched SpongeBob since I decided to go into body horror. Though if I could change my name, it probably should have been just Snake, just for the added Metal Gear reference, even if I have yet to play a Metal Gear game. The very first thing I decided to do upon awakening in my perpetual cell of being an impersonator is to walk into a corner for 15 minutes. It might sound weird, or par for the course for me really, but with this I can power level my Sneak, at least for the early game. Since my Steam account is running, I can't multitask and continue my addiction to RimWorld. Honestly, I came close to my self-imposed deadline of 1 month before the video comes out just because of my RimWorld brain rot. Eventually, after double checking my key was still being pressed down, I wandered into the line of sight of my kinsman who was interested in my widows. Sorry to break it to him, no one wants to date this loser, but I'm sure Creeper could use some company. As for escorting the celebrity voice actor to the studio, I had to double check the difficulty since when I do my end of video massacre and celebration, I always set the difficulty down to the minimum, and I found out the update to the difficulties went live, so now you can customize the difficulty somewhat. Not as good as Starfield's difficulty sliders, but at least a step up from the not so difficult add-up isn't turning the game into a Dark Souls wannabe copycat. At first I tried to pickpocket from the guardsmen, but given I'm a novice in my sneak skill, I get caught and I get a right head pat. I tried reloading for my shenanigans, and the game politely told me to go outside and touch grass. Off to a great start. Since I have yet to pilfer any pockets for illicitly obtained goods, I couldn't do anything to help out, so I stand from afar suggesting some less than ideal recommendations that get someone killed. Okay, off to a great start. As for the escape, I immediately have to fail the challenge. In fact, I'll fail the challenge several times so we can keep a running tab of how much of a fraud I am, so I picked up the key from a dead goblin just so I can continue the run. The rest of the tutorial goes by how it usually does, run past everything, have my train of thought tumble down the cliffside resulting in my speech being reduced to mere stutters, and before long I'm back to acting as a new cheerleader and then picking my birth sign. I went with the tower, since I was expecting to not have any lockpicks for a long time. I really should have went with the Lordstone, just like my Skyrim runs. More later. I continue being no help to the situation, and when I tried to pilfer more pockets for anything, all I got was a full body massage. It was honestly very creepy. There wasn't much else to be said for the long drawn out tutorial. I tried to protect the Emperor, but the powers of cutscenes failed in that regard. Imperial also gave me his necklace to fail the run a second time. Way to bolster my dwindling self-esteem. As for picking my class, going as a thief-based class for obvious reasons, without much of a focus since I'll probably not be having much in my name this run. Boris last up my stupid challenge I haven't seen on YouTube yet as of writing the script, and gives me a key to fail the run a third time. I run through several areas worth of Taco Bell, and before long I'm outside in the sewers of San Andreas to begin the crime spree of a century. Now comes the crux of my journey as a thief, and that will be becoming a master of the craft. Right now, I am about as discreet as an airplane engine in a daycare with metal music playing, so regardless, I will need to up my sneaking game. So because I'm a creepy individual, I hang out in a corner for a few minutes at the local Bloodworks until I reach Sneak 50, and getting bored with the method of sneaking, I decided to just rob the Bloodworks, making sure not to be seen, or else things will turn into a bloodbath. And I'm not talking about my primal urge to murder the vigilantes of Stendar. Back outside, I continue my crime spree by picking a key off a brawler, making sure not to be served a 4-course meal of knuckle sandwiches, and getting the special bands. Though since I have never stolen my fist, only my ideas, I won't be able to partake in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I tried pilfering through some guards' belongings. I did try to pick a discreet call to action and subscribe, but I get called out immediately. Okay, so much for being subtle. Things at this point were being very lucrative, and I'm going to want to get to sneak to 100 as fast as I can, so who better to steal from than the Thieves Guild? I swear I'm just horrible at this game. The few NPCs hanging outside of the meetup spot didn't have much, but Kristoff was a goldmine. I wasn't talking about the lockpicks, which makes picking the tower pointless, but rather he doesn't care if you pick his pockets, letting me abuse the system ad nauseum and nauseous because of the flashing menu, and after about 20 minutes of speedrunning carpal tunnel syndrome, I managed to hit sneak 100. So with the pieces falling into place, the next course of action is going to be grinding lockpicking, once again subjecting my wrist to a 15-minute session of mashing, engulfing my body in a pain that might cause long-term suffering for a short-term benefit that will go away at the end of the video, since long-term planning is not my forte. I match lockpicking until I hit 100. Now that I am the subject of wrist reconstruction surgery, which in the United States is a fine of $30,000 at least, I can finally begin robbing the world of its loot. May the crime spree begin. Well, the first place that comes to mind for me to rob is the marketplace. Pretty logical for my standards, really. Why the hell should I wait in line when I can just go right on in and skip the transactional part of the shopping experience? Truth be told, there isn't a lot of nice stuff to find. Nobody wears anything like enchanted rings, and for now, I'm just scrounging for sustenance. A rodent desperate for one meal to survive long enough to become a meal for the larger predator. The Mystic Emporium was a jackpot for scrolls, given this is the Elder Scrolls after all, though I don't use scrolls very often. On the body of the store owner, I found some glow dust, so I'm good to use Azura as my prince of choice. The other locale of importance is the potion shop. What might you find at a potion shop? If you said pointless knickknacks to persuade grandma it will protect her from the evils she heard on the 60-year-old TV shows, you would be correct. The potions come at a close 43rd. I will explain much later on if my goldfish of a brain will remember why these potion finds are extremely important. As for the rest of my robbing the Boja's way, I didn't find anything else interesting, at least in the marketplace, so I guess time to break out the big boy plays. For the most part, 99% of the populace doesn't have anything good on them. No enchanted items like you can find in Skyrim, so when all else fails, break into the mansions and pilfer from the aristocracy. In Oblivion, they suck too. Except for one target. I took a quick night's sleep in the Shadenhall Fighters Guild to meet the level requirement to give up Azura's Star, and on the slumbering body of Burzgrow Cash, I find a full set of enchanted items, and a glass mace. Out of everybody in Oblivion, this orc is above the suggested level range, far above the pittance of the rest of Cyrodiil can even fathom. It would be nice to share in on the good stuff every once in a while. I'd love to turn a Lamborghini into a snow shovel. Also, the porter would not leave me alone despite not being visible to him. If I were to write this paragraph as a parallel to the wealth disparity, it would be like the government protecting their special interest known as sugar daddies. Wait, why am I writing a political piece akin to a literature analysis? I need to get back to what the people actually love. The crazy psychopath doing and saying random shit. The last place of significance for the budding thief is in the Imperial prison. You know, the safest place to rob. Trust me, they keep the front door of Fort Knox unlocked, and it is mostly a straight shot to the gold. Just take 2 right turns and a left and you're there. I tried breaking into the dining room, probably not the smartest play in the book which was burned recently, but next door is a special chest, and if you can break inside, it is a respawning boss chest full of goodies, so something to keep in mind should anyone try this at home. Other fun activities include throwing a ball of aluminum into a microwave and having a seductive bubble bath with a toaster. Not for sure why I have a thing with kitchen appliances. Anyways, I only have one last thing I want to do before I can get the show on the road, and that is to steal from Joffrey before he unlocks his chest. I want to note, I stole the 30 arrows, and before heading into the first gate of hell, here is everything I have to work with for basically most of the run. So with all that out of the way, let's begin the real game. Wait, I feel I've heard those 2 taglines from other YouTubers before. Oh well. I hiked up the hill to Kvatch to learn the town is on fire. Someone must have forgot to turn off the oven. Oh well. What's that smell? I see a big funny portal to hell, so I figured that could be a totally fun time. I lent a hand for the first scamps, and I might have been a bloodthirsty lunatic, and for some reason, the primal urge came over me to strike him down. Maybe because I have a bad habit of attacking those who say, "Don't attack me," or if they're related to the vigilantes of Stendar. I will say for the most part, I start speedrunning much of the game, simply because when you don't have to stop by the chests and loot bodies, you take out much of the bloated Bethesda games. I tried sneaking up the tower, but I misspelled sneak in my name, so that doesn't get me very far, at least until the second section. As for the Sigil Keeper, I have to play things carefully. I have a small window to open his pockets and steal the key, since legally stealing keys off of bodies is illegal. For the most part, the rest of the tower was uneventful, just a normal challenge run, and I niched numerous other challenge runners where there's at least 20 other masochists attempting to beat Oblivion with just punching things, and in my mind, how the hell am I going to stand out in a starting to get bloated niche where only the elite can eat well? I did take the time to steal from the devils, and they are stocked up pretty nicely, something to keep in the back of my mind. I don't steal anything from the data for the rest of the game. I fail the run once again by legally obtaining a shiny orb, help be moral support as the guards clear out the city of its data problem, stole from the priest. I think I'm going to hell for that. And back at the priory, things were already a hot mess. I was trying to figure out why the party got started early. The stalker conjurer kicked off the festivities without me. Asshole. I rescued Joffrey from his assailants, find out the Mythic Dawn is also doing a stolen items only run, so I have to hurry to get this run out first to gain extra early cloud so it doesn't look like I stole the idea from them, and escorted the group to Cloud Ruler Temple, where I became enthralled at the 2D flame texture. Stole from the guards once again, talked to the back of a head, and wrapped up the recording session, and funnily enough, we're just about halfway done with the run. Funny how most challenge runs, the majority of the content is just getting the build under wraps. Beginning my second recording session after satiating my honestly blossoming and horrid Rimworld addiction that might turn terminal soon, my starting mission is probably the most important for the run, simply because I have to tackle these missions in such a way that I can pilfer the goods. Touching dead bodies is a no-go, so I have to make sure they still have a pulse when I loot their bodies, which is what I do to the Mythic Dawn Assassin, whatever he was reading. It wasn't enough for him to have a breakdown. With the first book in my possession, I traveled to the Arcane University, where I continued to be a failure and being gifted a second book, and I'm not talking about my chronic imposter syndrome. For the third book, I just awaited for the unaware low elf to turn his back, and I just stole both the book and the note, skipping all the dialogue, and leaving him with only his imagination. As for the sewer dive, I wouldn't call it an exhilarating plunder, more a boring auto-scroller babysitting mission, since everything is so weak. At least I get to practice my backstabs on the fearsome mud crabs. As for meeting Raven, I went in by myself, sat at the table so he can come in to enroll me in the cult of Scientology. The only cult I need is my Discord server, thank you very much, and picked the book off his body. I think I actually passed the test and surprised him. Free of bloodshed, much to my psychotic dismay. I turned in the overdue library books, got the location of the class reunion I was 2 years too late to because nobody told me anything, even when I still on my Facebook I haven't used in 8 years and feel friends with half of the graduating class, and then began my hike there. I was slightly curious if I might be able to use my IRL cooking skills to good use, and plunder some poison apples since they are in a very hard lock. Sadly, the lock is legal, so no dice. Sure, stealing weapons of mass destruction and tools of assassination are a-okay, but stealing food? Oh no! As for the Mythic Dawn base, I just meet the Dawn and pick the key off the bouncer and attempted to treat this mission like a stealth mission. Except of course, I get seen at every step of the way. So much for free loot. And the few assassins I could sneak up on didn't have much on their purse. Since I am sneaky, I could take out one of the guards and tried picking Mankar's robes, but he didn't have anything for me to take. Meh. I sort of fell in line with the challenge by stealing the Xerxes, and the game just did Oblivion things for a minute. After that faux pas, the rest of the Central Chamber goons fell over like wet tissue, and in the escape, my attempt at getting easy loot was met with an entire chapter of crazed lunatics that are greatly upset that I'm not interested in selling all my worldly goodies just to join. I don't have much going for myself, so my self-esteem says, I will relish in my happiness, thank you very much. Once I picked off the stragglers, I figured I could knock out some upcoming quests early, and since I'm in the area, I figured I could have a lovely chat with the plot device of Morrowind. Instead of the lair of the blood-sucking parasites, and I'm not talking about the worms from that very shady gas station sushi served from the toilet, I wanted to be sure that the vampires broiled in the sunshine. I have a slight problem though. In my first attempt, on the first hit, I got the sucky disease, and after coming out on top, I tried going to the church to get my diseases cured, Turns out, I'm told to repent for my sins. I am sorry, the kleptomaniac is just trying to round out their collection. Reloading a save so this video isn't a can you beat Oblivion Remastered as a blood-starved vampire midway through or something to make the algorithm happy, which it hasn't been lately. I led the Trampire to the nearby shrine. Sure, she ends up taking out one of the members, but at least I can come out ahead. As for the others, I figure gravity can help resolve the situation, which it certainly does. Word of advice, don't listen to jump around while on top of a cliff or a skyscraper. If you do listen to my words of advice, congratulations, you're a wise one. Enjoy a volley of arrows in your direction. With the last set of vampires, I was able to one-shot the monk, and for the final vampire, I plopped him with arrows from outside his range until I ran out, then I started using some scrolls to good use, and with some final bonks, the day is saved from the fad of the late 2000s, early 2010s that saw a rise in furries, I commune with Azura once again, and I fail the run yet again. And I figure I can continue getting distracted. So what's the easiest way to distract an Orpheolus besides letting them become hopelessly addicted to RimWorld, where I managed to clock in nearly 40 hours of game time in just 2 weeks, while recording challenge runs and putting off the script until the one day they can sit down and do voice recording that was nearly delayed by said RimWorld addiction? Remind me to get Miss Karkin done. Besides tapping someone on the shoulder in a casual manner before giving them some steel, nothing really happened, and before long I'm inside the big ruins. I am inside my natural environment, and everyone's backs are turned, which expedites the process. Sure, goblins were alerted to my presence, but when everyone else is deaf, just tuning out the mad ramblings of a lunatic, they don't realize their fates were sealed. Since I cannot pick any pockets because goblins prefer to keep their loot solidly up their butthole, and I don't fancy getting those charges planted on me, I can't do much here, and I just snuck my way to the mood crystal. I fail the run, yet again, like the failure I perceive myself, because imposter syndrome is a bitch, and I decimated the king. Honestly, it made for an easy time. Maybe the assassins that killed Spock had the right idea after all. At this point, my gear is starting to get worn down, and I am really going to need to repair them soon. But before I get hammered like bringing an E&J brandy bottle to a bar fight, have you seen them before? I swear they are deadlier than a katana from a neckbeard. I broke into a Sextius's man's house and stole a witch hunter's helmet. Probably going to be a very helpful item for the Mankar fight coming honestly very soon. Then afterwards came a giant pub crawl to nearly every single armory in the province just for a hammer. Also, I was curious if the Anvil's fighter yield had anything of worth on him. The Shadenhall one had some really good loot. Sadly, Anvil was a flop. And while I was in Skingrad, the game got a little weird. I tried breaking into a shop, and I got caught, and I had a small bounty. So I kept reloading older saves, and I still had a pitiful 7 gold bounty. Not wanting to get arrested at the wrong time, I do the only sane thing any person would do. Drop every single piece of evidence right outside the prison, and then turn myself in. When I got out, I had a bunch of zombies show up. I know I like to make brain-dead ideas, but this isn't the brain-dead I was looking for. Oh well, I illegally got my stuff back. Some of the items randomly became legal in my inventory, but the inventory system of this game is a joke, considering how uneasy and unpatched the infinite item exploit is, and I'm back to hunting down more hammers. The Imperial City was a hard flop, and at this point I'm about to start challenge running the Elder Scrolls 6 or 2, just so I can go where the hammer fell. Thankfully the game gave me a reprieve when I visited Shadenhall. Right by the entrance, my piece of salvation lied. One hammer, which I'll have to use very sparingly. Instead of having it break down like me on a bad day, I quick save before every repair, and slowly I repaired my entire kit. It was exhausting, feeling like I'm some sort of copycat to the better smiths across the land, a fraud in my own eyes, as I try to imitate a fraction of their power despite my small stature. Once I was satisfied with my situation, I returned to Cloud Ruler Temple to regress along the main story, routing out the imposters. Before sending the poor assassins to the afterlife, I made sure to purloin their keys, so should I fail in my adventure, they are forced to hang out outside in the freezing cold with nothing but their shorts. The first spy went down easily enough, and the second one I led right to the guards to take care of. Once they were sussed out like an amoongus, I looked at the document, but I made sure not to take it, just so I don't add one more to the long list of stuff I failed to run at. And then I turned in 2 quests at once. Since I want to get a couple of levels to fortify strength, I took a quick nap, which I was rudely awoken from because of Joffrey. And after finishing our little dialogue, I ascended in level. Weird time to level up, but I'll take it. The babysitting adventure through a rough day at work wasn't too eventful. Since I have some very noisy backup, my stealth operation turned into more of a surgical operation, slowly removing one organ after another to see how the imps tick. I'm not a very good babysitter, truth be told. I just let the kids loose in the mall, and I don't care if they decide to rob the candy store at gunpoint, holding the cashier hostage and all. Inside the main building, one of the side guards immediately got clapped by a churl. Yeah, off to a great start. I am mildly upset that I couldn't pick any pockets. Stealth is not a part of the Nord's repertoire of skills, when it's their game where stealth was the most broken. Oh well, blah blah blah, I failed to run yet again by pulling out, the day is saved, and I'm rewarded by stealing from the blades as they sleep. Next up in the escapades of the fool without a path in the world, trying to find what makes themselves unique and heading into the obligatory Xenoblade reference. The skeletons outside were not wanting to play fair to my stealth games. I just want to play blackjack with a luck stat at 10, okay? The insides of Torna was as boring as ever. The ghosts take a couple of swings to go down, and thankfully I didn't need to take the warden's keys. I can just pick the luck and call it a day. The undead blades were a little trickier to take down, just because they're a little bulkier than their compatriots. Much of the rest of the dungeon crawl is uneventful, especially when every corridor looks the same. Copy what one YouTuber does, and make an entire copycat niche out of it. Then when you look into the details, every player plays these games differently. There's a deeper nuance to every approach, where some stream their playthroughs and upload highlights, while others just break the games and make sadistic commentary to pad out the runtime while making meta commentary at the same time about the fact they are pointing out the niche's subtleties and calling themselves out for being unoriginal. I wonder who that could be about. Probably some loser. Anyways, only other highlights were the fact I had a 4-course meal in dirt, and I managed to vanquish the 4 bone boys, enough for them to lower the gate, and now I can cry asleep at night, knowing once again, I failed the run. Ready to start closing out the run, I woke up a sleeping priest to let him know that there are heretics to be hunted, and I informed Fiona that the best solution to beating out the Datara is to just yellow things. The spectators to the parade are going to be disappointed the cab drivers got shit-faced drunk and have a massive hangover, and the parade was cancelled. So for the big battle, things started out alright, just dancing around with 2 left legs plucking away at the scamps, but things got very dicey when my willpower got sapped, and my health started to drop like a sack. Yeah, I took way more of a beating than I'm used to, and I had to use quite a lot of my very dwindling potion supply just to survive. Eventually when the main gate was raised, I said hell with it, and booked it inside the final hellgate. Inside the time attack, everyone here is way more aggro than usual, so that means I had to use even more of my dwindling potion supply just to continue my deathless and oblivion streak. Once I got into the tower, my hyper-frugal nature took over, and only used potions when I absolutely had to, and let regen take care of the rest. At the very least, the tower was very short, and before long I'm at the tip of the shaft, pulling out the ball, adding yet another ding against my self-esteem, but at least the day is saved. Before I dive headfirst into depravity, I'm going to want to restock my potion supply. So, funny thing, I have an hour left in recording, and Paradise plus Dragonfires takes me 20 minutes tops, probably closer to 15. So what in the world could possibly fill up the remainder of the time? Circling back to the potion thing I mentioned like 20 minutes ago, or IRL like 4 hours ago, as it turns out, if you're doing the stolen items only run, potions are an absolute pain in the ass to get. Nobody carries potions on their body except for the Boris, so I went into every single store I could think of, just hoping to stumble upon anything that might keep me alive. I raided Mage's Guild, which seemed to have a very crappy time keeping the books on the shelves. I raided alchemy stores. All they had was the stuff to make potions. I also raided more armories, which I was at least able to find a couple more repair hammers. I even had to go down into the Mage's Guild kitchen, which I've never been into before, just to maybe acquiesce anything to help. I was nearly out of luck, and I was about to attempt the final boss No Head, until I came across my salvation. I visited the Skingrad alchemical store, and I hit the motherlode. A lot of potions right for the taking upstairs. Necrophilia saves the day. Elated that I might actually have a shot against Mankar, I returned to Cloud Ruler, and told Martini I'm ready for heaven, in which she opens the portal and I step inside. I had made sure my trip to Paradise was a quick one, walked onto the Vegas Strip, shoot up Benny, get the Platinum Ship, off Mr. House, and go for the Caesar Legion ending. Oops, wrong Paradise. This Paradise, I went right towards the demon that has the bands of the Chosen. I pretended I would go along with his schemes and pickpocket what I could. Sadly, I could not pick the bands off of him, but I did get some goodies on the side. I just partake in simple combat, and for the second to last time, fail the run by equipping the bands, and I go into the insides. As for the interior, I have made peace with myself. Well, sure, I'm very inspired by other challenge runners like Nurbit and Mitten Squad, to the point I feel like an imitation, but as I've done these runs for the last 2 years, I realized I've started a community of sorts, inspired others to do the same, and continuing the train of innovation. I am me. There is nothing I can say to myself to think I'm someone else. Well, with that pointless arc concluded, I rushed the insides, let myself get roasted by the dislikes and rude comments about my voice impediment, then more or less skip out on the encounters on the way out. I did try stealing from the boss enemy at the end, but the game wasn't having any of it. Oh well, I cut my losses and returned out to the fresh air. Ruma didn't take too kindly to me pilfering her pockets, or even though continued to be flabbergasted. I entered inside and began a rough final battle. I started the battle behind a throne, getting a sneak attack off, then applying a magic depleting poison to my sword to drain Mankar's healing reserves. It honestly went by as planned. Since there are so many ads, yeah, there were a lot of ads. A few snuck in without our consent, which added to the confusion. When my health went low, I used my healing potions, and it was a good thing I restocked when I did. The battle was pretty straightforward, just pretty stressful, and before long, Mankar is on the floor, coughing up blood, and he cursed me in his dying breath by crashing the game. I made sure to leave a wonderful note to Virtuous Studios about what happened. Second go around, it was largely the same. Rushed Mankar down until his immortal body became unmortal, and it played out largely the same. Who would have thought if something went well, do it again? As the ceiling collapsed, I failed the run for the last time by illegally obtaining the amulet and avoiding the ceiling and imps to make sure I don't have to do the battle a third time. I handed the amulet over to Martin, took him to the palace to get a good look at Octavarium's wrinkles, then began the minute-long rush to the temple. I just sped around this mission, and it was a quick jog to the Temple of the One, watched a kaiju battle straight out of an anime, and I failed spectacularly at beating Oblivion Remastered with only stolen items. That was an interesting run. Honestly, it wasn't nearly as satisfying as Pickpocket Only from Skyrim, mostly because there aren't really any interesting items to pick up. It was fun to watch Skyrim's system snowball to the point you're just stripping people down to their undies, and for Oblivion, it's just a few stepstones and some corn. Potions were also hard to come across, but I probably could have gone through some dungeons and picked some items off of bandits. It was still interesting feeling so weak through the run, given resources are very few and far between. Overall, I don't think I would do this run again. It is fun to roleplay as a thief and making lots of money, but using it as your only form of defense, not so much. Well, at the very least, I have some more interesting runs coming out soon. There is the conclusion to the follower tournament coming out soon, and after that, I have a very fun Halloween-themed Skyrim run coming out. Stay tuned to that. And before wrapping up the video, a special thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members who have stolen my heart. Please, I need it back. I can't do proper blood filtration without it. Links to them along with my Discord and socials in the description, and if you like the video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe for more masochism, and any other ways to torture myself, leave them down below. This has been Orpheolus, and I'll see you on the next one.